That's the big pipe, and a 27-inch diameter pipe flows full bore with all the runoff from Lichfield. And we've got the big pipe. We're slowly taking this out. This is one area where on pound 25 we've relined the basin. We've put the walls back in, the towpath walls and the offside walls in, and we're working our way gradually up through lock 24, and we'll stop up at lock 24. Okay. This is the site of old lock 24. Old lock 24 would have taken you up high enough to go under a humpback bridge on Cricket Lane. You can see just in front of us, about 100 metres up there. Unfortunately, the humpback bridge can't be put back, which means this can't remain working as a lock. And to give you an idea, the two handrails at the top that are painted blue, that's the water level that you come up from the low level down here to the water level up at this level. And that would take you through and underneath, and you can see that quite a humpback bridge. So instead of this being a lock, we now make it just a narrows. But one of the problems what I had got was that the north wall, in fact, if you project that north wall forwards, it aligns almost with the porch of the house up there. Now, unfortunately, with us having to take a deep cutting out of the end of the lock, it means we need to retain the original canal wharf wall all the way along there. And of course the footings for that are very, very shallow. So we've had to do a fair amount of works at this end to support that wall and the side of the lock up there. And we've had to move the channel over to come in clear of the wall and the cottage and all the support works we need to put in there. So we've had to dismantle the south wall and then rebuild the channel walls all through here, and that's the low level towpath we're putting through, and there will be this high level towpath as well. If you look up, there's artwork. The artiste, Stuart, is at the back, and he's done a lot of fabulous paintings and basically gives people, walkers by who don't have the benefit of me joining them, something that a lot of questions are answered on those. All credit to Stuart. Thanks, Stuart. And this was a fairly unusual, and there's not many examples of almost a circular weir, but if you have serious floodwater, the excess goes into a side pound here, over a weir, goes past the lock and goes back into the pound below. We restored the weir, and then we found that we hadn't got enough width for the towpath. So we put some arches in here and put the towpath over half the weir. So the rest of that weir actually does go underneath there, but this allows us to walk over the top. But again, just a reminder, that blue pipe over there and this weir here, same level. All of it is recycled. The bricks are going back into the wall, the half bricks are going into the back wall, which is effectively a dry stone wall, and the large lumps of concrete bricks glued together are going into to flesh out the mass concrete pours, and all the remainder goes in to make towpaths. So there's almost nothing of that lock that doesn't in fact go back into the canal. And Hugh, yes. The marshals are doing a fabulous job. Here we are at Cricket Lane. We have a bridge to put in here. It would have been a humpback bridge, but we're now having to move lock 24 from down there, and lock 24 will be pretty much where I'm standing now. That will allow boats to come through, which means this road does not need to have much of an incline. In fact, it's almost exactly the same level as you've got there, so we can make it work, and you haven't got cars coming over a humpback bridge. In the local plan, we have it set out that the developer of that particular site will develop this bridge for us, for the bridge and the associated structures to it. Persimmon initially played fairly hardball and said, we'll agree with you the technical details, which we have done, of exactly what this bridge needs to do. We've done that, and then they said, but we don't want to build it. We had a robust discussion, I think is probably the right way of putting it, and they subsequently backed down, and they have now agreed that they will pay for this particular bridge. That's probably worth about £500,000 to us. So that is us working with developers, and I have to say, Persimmon get my tick in the box really for what they've done.
Anything got to happen with that?
At the moment, the wing walls, the bridge, the alignment, everything misses that. But what you don't see from that is the cables under the ground here. And this is absolutely riddled with cables, services, gas pipes, water pipes. There's a sewer coming through here. We think we have just about danced our way through all the obstacles, but the cables, I think they're going to have to do a lot of moving of cables. They will go back into the bridge deck, where there will be provision in the bridge deck for all the services that do need to go across the top of the canal. So when one has a very silly idea to put a flower bed and do something for Lichfield in bloom, and I said, let's build a narrowboat here and let's fill it up with flowers. So we entered that into the Lichfield in bloom with all the other elements, and of course Lichfield gets a gold. So we've found ourselves on the hook. We've made some changes to it. Originally all the flowers were on the roof. It was only supposed to be there for 3 months while we basically did the Lichfield in bloom, and then it was going to be taken down. Such a success, we've done it a second year, and we've carried on planting up the whole of the hold. It can't stay there, unfortunately, because there needs to be room for water there, and that's the way it unfortunately is. But this is one of our first bits of public art that we put in, and it's been a great success. We've been doing some work recently, so we needed to bring some material out, and we stored it here on a temporary basis, and last Christmas we did a big dig to remove this material and take it down to Fosseway, where it's now been incorporated into the works down there. We have another metre or so to go down here, but right now we have a complication of there is a gas main in the bed of the canal. And unfortunately we've got to do something about that. We're in discussions with the lawyers and the gas companies to get that moved. But it runs all the way down here, right the way under the tree, right through here. So we have that's a big chunk of money. It's the only public footpath. Everything else, basically, they have no public rights of way across here. This one does. And so what we plan to do is put a bridge there. If those of you who've been down to Darnford Moors, you'll see the sister of this one. This will be slightly narrower, span a bit further, and will be skew, and that will be located right in front of the chip shop here, and will be very iconic. I think you'll see it from way back there, and you'll see it from way down there. It's going to be very highly visible. So that's the lift bridge we're planning on putting in. As we walk through, you'll see we've done some of the earthworks. We've obviously got to do the structure. The intention is that bridge, we will fabricate that bridge on site with Steve directing students. Basically, Steve has set up what I class as the academy, and he's training young lads, 14, and we've got one 16-year-old who's been there for 2 years, one 23-year-old who's been there for 5-6 years, and those guys are absolutely top flight. They are really damn good engineers. And we do take in, there are vacancies, not many, but there are vacancies for young, keen, and they have to be very, very keen. They have to be well motivated as well. And it's fabulous to see those kids sort of develop from really quite trembling little kids to being quite amazingly skilled engineers. The big pipe actually runs right underneath that bank and underneath all those trees. So all these trees are post closure of the canal and post installation of the big pipe. Of course, we dug down and along and through, dug the face of the wall out, and some of it had disappeared altogether, and some of it there were bits of it there, yeah. And some were basically all the mortar had died, given up the ghost.
What's that pipe there?
That's the big pipe, basically, that was put into the bed of the canal to take residual water when they decided that they actually wanted to fill the canal up. And so that's a 27-inch diameter concrete pipe, flows all the way through, and sections of it will come out. sections of it where they fall underneath the towpath or underneath mounds, we will probably leave those in. COVID basically nearly shut a lot of works down. In our case, we found ourselves in the situation where we are technically a construction site. We're governed by construction rules, and as such we could keep going. And I had 3 guys here who decided they wanted to do their exercise, do their work and do their restoration here, and they worked right the way through, and pretty much the 3 of them did this whole wall through here. The reason we didn't do brickwork for the last section of that is that's where it gets deeper. This wall only goes down about 5 foot. Up there the channel needs to be a full 5 foot depth of water, and I couldn't make it because of this 300 mil of freeboard. So unfortunately that had to be a steel sheet pile wall through there, and this one is the repaired and rejuvenated old brick wall. I will stop just up here. Well, welcome to Gallows Wharf. Bit sinister. Well, execution by hanging was the sentence given to murderers, counterfeiters and some thieves. All right, Keith. In the 18th century, it was used to punish the theft of animals, and as late as 1785, John Coxon was sentenced to death for the theft of a horse. The sheriff was responsible for transporting the prisoners to the place of execution at Gallows Wharf. And the gallows, the historic gallows, have been here for some years. Was just over the top of that building, somewhere on the green. It was the city gallows, and from the records I've managed to get through, I think there was probably about 26, but somewhere between 26 and 30 people were actually hanged there for a series of misdemeanors. The last 3 was, the 3 people to be hanged were all hanged together for uttering and forging banknotes. And I've even got an image of the £5 banknote that they say, whether it's a counterfeit or not, I think it's a counterfeit of a counterfeit, but that's my view. But basically, when you consider that was a handwritten note by the Bank of England, by the and in this one was a guy called Clapp, and he wrote these out that I will pay you £1, £5, whatever. So that was the sentence. The guys were sentenced, and we have here a fabulous broadsheet. I went down to the Bodleian Library in Oxford, and we found this as the sentences of these 3 poor unfortunates. And we even had it was followed up by the newspaper of the execution. The execution, life, parentage and education and behaviour of John Neve, William Wakeman and James Richard Jackson for uttering forged Bank of England notes and for forging and uttering bills of exchange. And these truly unfortunate men received sentence of death on Wednesday the 18th of April 1810, and on Friday morning the 1st of June about 10 o'clock were attended by the sheriff, constables and other peace officers, who conducted them to a place of execution about a mile from the city of Lichfield, when after devoting their last moments to prayer and repentance and making their final atonement to the Almighty God for their transgressions through life, they were launched into eternity. So this a novel idea here, and somebody will tell me they've done it before, but the idea is you go in at one angle, lift the boat up and then come out at another angle, which means you can actually we're going to have a bent lock effectively. So that's I think a first. I don't think there's another one on the UK system, but we're prepared to put in our bent lock and make it work. We've done the drawings, we're quite happy that we can fit it all in, and we come out at a different angle and go through the channel. and then go out into the big winding hole and then on up to the rest. So a real serious challenge. It took an enormous amount of legwork and brain power and a few nose-to-nose meetings we've worked with Persimmon Homes, with Amy's, with Staffs County Council, and what we've got there is something which suits us, gives them something which works, and I think everybody is now happy.
That would have been the only one.
Correct. Old Lot 23. Yes.
Right. And then they would have sent me across the line.
That's good. That's good.
That
Yeah, yeah. That's it. It's roughly speaking where the bund is.
is where Peter's tree.
Yes, would have been. Yes, yes, yes. So yes, that's where we are. We'll go up and we'll have a look at the pinch point. What of course you will not quite realise is that the post and four rail fence, as we get off the sound barrier fence, as we go beyond there, the post and four rail fence is not in the correct line. It needs to be moved right out to the curb line, and the retaining wall needs to be, the top of that has not been built by Amy's yet. That will be built right on the back of the curb line, and that means the fence will go away, which actually gives us our 7 metres for 3.5 of canal channel and 3.5 of towpath. Thank you. Thank you very much. If we go a little bit further, that basically is what you see from the top end, looking back towards the lock. So you can see it's extremely tight at the pinch point, the end garden wall there, and there's the wall that we talked about here, and we've got to try and get all our works in between there and here. So that's an image of what we've got to do. As you can see, suddenly it widens out to a full width canal, and there's a big winding hole at this far end, so boats can actually turn round. So any boat wanting to turn round can go stick its nose into there, go take the back end round, bring it round and turn round. So boats can turn here. You can't turn a narrowboat, 70-foot narrowboat in a normal channel. That's effectively the path that goes into the estate. We're going to try and encourage those all living up there that this becomes part of the Heritage Towpath Trail, a community link, and comes down into the canal, and basically people don't have to cross the road to get to a path over there. They can actually walk down there, safe walk, a community link along the side of the canal on the Heritage Towpath Trail. It's one of those really annoying things, but they've also replanted the hedge there, so that's good. That's good. I'm standing on the parapet of a bridge that was installed by Persimmon Homes to give them one of two accesses into their St John's Grange estate. There's one up there, which we'll also see. There's a full bridge underneath here, road bridge underneath with the towpath and the channel. They backfilled it to wait for us to come around and get round to doing something about it. So they put a fence all the way along the top. There will be parapet handrails along eventually, but this bridge is installed by Amy's on behalf of Persimmon to give them the access over the top, and that's jolly good. And there's another bridge underneath the next access. What we have behind me will be Lock 22, which will bring us up from the pound level for 23, bring it up to the point where we can go underneath that next bridge. That next bridge is about 8 foot higher than this one, which gives us the necessary lift so that these two bridges are not at the same level. And the new lock will go in here that will get us up to the level. And at that level, it will get up and go right the way underneath that bridge and then go straight through and underneath the railway. And that's our tunnel vision appeal, is to get the tunnel underneath there. We were originally told that tunnel vision would be a £1 million hit. We now establish with all the other things that are going on in the world that in actual fact it's likely to be nearer £3 or £4 million to go underneath there. We did try very hard to see whether it could go underneath at the same time as the railway bridge for the highway, for the bypass, but that wasn't to be. The geometry didn't quite work out, so we unfortunately couldn't make that happen. So it's now it's going to be a separate affair that we as a trust will have to try and make happen.
Shouldn't that be draining out the land?
It's another attenuation pond, I think. It's like all the ponds.
Just start.
It will stay. They may do some work to skin it and line it and do things with it. Will hold water that doesn't. If it rains heavily today, it stops in there for a day.
I can say it's really been full at some
Yes. That's the idea, is that
it just
it
soaks
holds
away,
and it will soak away.
Right.
Yes. Basically, that will miss the pylons. Any piles for those pylons will be out on the outside. So yes, it's quite well over on that side. But there's going to be, if we're going to jack the bridge in from this side, in fact, this will all be completely destroyed with crane platforms and the like for them to build the bridge and jack it through underneath the railway. But yes, that's what we've got to do. Tunnel vision, that's what we call that one. It's get the rest of the canal up to it from both sides, and you just put pressure on. You get more and more pressure on, and then at that point you have credibility. Because if you just say, I want to put a tunnel through there, how much is it going to cost? 3.5 million. They go, what? And you have a credibility problem. Well, why should we do that? So instead, what we try and do is keep going on all the things you can do either side, and work towards it. And eventually, well, the only thing that's stopping it is this damn tunnel underneath here. Can we do something about it? And you get more and more of the community are with you. But it is difficult to sort of be credible when you say, well, I want to spend 3 million quid here, or I want to spend money here. Just doing the works we've done with Persimmon Homes through here has added to our credibility enormously, and it's all just doing a bit more, opening up a bit more, and eventually it starts to gain a momentum of its own. We'll walk underneath. Rail track needed some hard standing here so they can get to their railway. Well, didn't you think to talk about the canal and whether we could make it work? Oh, we didn't think it mattered, so you don't get consulted. So yes, there are all sorts of issues. Suddenly this is another issue. In this instance we can overcome it, but yes, it's you're fighting all the way. Yes, already.
Is this all done?
That's done under there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm standing on the manhole which goes down into the tunnel, which is already there underneath this roundabout across here. So I've been down there to inspect, and there's the big box structure is in there, and you'll notice that it actually does miss the pylons over there. It needs an extension to the box to get us clear of the the footpath here. There will be a deep depression here, and there will be lots of zigzag walks coming down on that side from the development that's going on there, and we're working closely with the landowner here to make that happen. But this is the FIL land. Their stage one was to open the co-op, and then they'll come down and they'll build the rest of this area down at this end. So that's one of the stages we've got, and of course we've got to get underneath that, that's tunnel vision again. But this does exist underneath my feet. Oh, it could be. Oh, there'll be a cable or a service or some damn thing. So yes.
Wait for the green to stop.
Yes.
Definitely
They won't
upset
stop.
us,
I don't think they will stop.
But that guy back there.
You get a better view from over here in terms of tunnel vision, and the tunnel itself does extend quite a long way here, right up to where Linda's standing, I think. And what's behind me is the pumping station. That pumping station is 2 large manholes which takes all the water. We'll wait for the trains to pass, but it takes all the water that lands on the road system in this area and gets pumped over the top, and eventually ends up in the big pipe down the bottom there, which goes into the canal. So we get the water eventually. It's a case of how far it has to go in the interim. So this will have to remain in position for some while until such time as we've actually punched a hole through there, and the water will then flow through there. Interestingly enough, the tunnel that is underneath that road is capped off at the two ends, and all the water that does fall in there is actually stored. And it's stored until pumps in here kick in and start to pump it up over, so the pumps aren't running all the time. They only run when basically it gets up to level. So we come out of the tunnel there. We go into two locks here to get us up high enough to then get onto the level, which is Fosseway all the way through. And these two locks get us up. They're about 3.5 meters in lift, so they're actually quite high lift locks. Most of the locks along here are only about 2.5, 2.8. What we will be doing is in addition, we will have some back pumping, and hey presto, somebody's got some back pumping pumps here that we in fact can reuse, remodel, and then pump water from there back up. And in fact, below lock 23, we've also got some, we will be installing some back pumping facility, which ensures that the water and pounds above lock 23 remain in water. So that's the idea, is we will pump water up and it will all start to cascade down. And there'll be another back pumping exercise here. And that will mean we can store flood water in times of flood up that way. And there's something like nearly a kilometre of a canal channel from the top here going all the way that way to store flood water. And this is the one place where I suddenly realised how effective that bund and the hedge was to holding traffic noise. If you take that bund away, it's noisy here. Now, when we've gone down in the bottom and you've got a towpath walking down there, you'll barely hear the road at all. So it's going to be a really nice walk through here. Okay? Any questions?
How did you learn to become a canal engineer in this day and age?
I think it's an interesting one. I mean, I've been in engineering and construction all my life. Yeah. So we got hooked a few years back on just doing. We hired a narrowboat, and we said to the family, "There's a narrowboat we'd like to hire here. You know, would any of the family like to join us?" Yeah. And I think there were 10 pairs of hands flew up, and we suddenly found that we had a 62-foot narrowboat with 10 berths, and we had 9 people on it, and we had an absolute ball. And it was really good, and I sort of got hooked. Yeah. You know, you just get interested, and I got involved with I thought I'd join the Canal Society, the Lichfield and Hatherton, and I joined them, and I found myself more and more getting sucked into this vortex, and it's fun. It's very interesting.
Well, it's basically civil engineering adapted to the canal environment.
Correct. Somebody has put up a gazebo at the top end. We will go underneath the road bridge. There will be a new road bridge going in there, and we've got steep cuttings down here, towpath on that side, and a fairly steep batters on that side. And so the canal will be something like 4 or 5 metres below where we're standing at the moment. There's quite a lot of soil to remove from here.
How's that going?
So yes, you can see the bund all the way around. One of the reasons for the bund was for security. This had been the site of incursions with travellers coming up here and squatting along here. It was the same group of travellers every 6 months on one of their routes going round whatever they were doing. They come back, and every 6 months they were pitching up here. The county council had the powers to remove them. We didn't. So they asked us what our measures were to try and stop people driving onto the site. So that's why we put the bund up early, and we put the trees in and put the hedging on it, basically. And you'll see down there where we already have started putting the steel sheet piles on Zone A. That's Zone B, and this is Zone C. And in Zone A, we've actually got a channel there We've even put the steel sheet piles on the farmer's side, and we put the wall in on the road side. So that's where, and we'll stop again down that bottom end. This is one of our compounds and some of the plant that we own. One of our oldest excavators, the 3-tonner. Lovely little beast. She's done an enormous amount of work. We have a 5-tonner down further back there, and the new 8-tonner that was gifted to us by Chasetown. And then we've got loan of a 9-tonner as well, and we've got 2 dumpers as well. There's a 6 and a 3. So with that, we can actually do quite significant amounts of construction, buying some of the huts and sheds and the like, so we can actually have a mess hut for the lads, and of course the poor devils, they do need toilets here as well. That's basically where we are here, and you can see the way the bund ties in. At this point we have 2 tow paths, one either side of the canal. At this point, that tow path goes outside and goes up the verge up to the top. We haven't got enough width here to put 2 tow paths on through this section. So there will be a tow path on that side, which will be right down low, and I think that will make a really nice quiet walk. Bob Williams, who is the finance director, he finds the money and I spend it as the engineer. So
not necessarily in that order.
No, I very often spend it before he's found it. So no, we work very, very closely together, and I have to say all the trustees work very, very closely together to try and make this happen. Yeah, how is everybody? Do you want to get there and get there quickly, or what's your thoughts? Because failing that, we'll probably go only up to the interim crossover and come back, and we can catch everything then. That's where we've stopped at the moment. This is ready to pick up as soon as we've sorted a little bit of paperwork, and then this will carry on through here and basically go into the deep cut there. We went past the pumping station we were just talking about, and that's the Sandfields pumping station, the waterworks, Lichfield Waterworks. Brilliant idea. If you haven't seen that pumping engine in there, go and have a look. The reality is that the users of canals there's 3% of them are boaters, and the rest of them are all walkers, cyclists and all the other people. And this has been, since COVID, this has been blindingly successful, with people coming out of Lichfield, walking across the road and coming down here and walking up the bits we're going to walk up. There was a point in the early COVID where everybody was all really stressed out, and we counted here 60 groups of people an hour were coming through here. And we also counted down the bottom end at Tamworth Road, and we had another 60 groups of people down there. And that could be a family group of 2 or 3 or 4 with 2 kids. And hey presto, they're kids. The kids were actually involving themselves in being open in the open air. So it's been very, very successful. What we do is, for our own volunteers, it does an enormous measure of good, power of good to those volunteers that do come here, that in fact get some exercise, get some company, and in addition to everything else we do for the environment as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And please use it. Please use it. Nobody else on it. Thank you so much for coming. Please use it. And I can't think of any other reason why would anybody
Enjoy that walk, eh?
I did enjoy that walk, yes. The rain has refreshed me somewhat, so it was good fun, thank you very much.